Hello, crafters. This is Yana Smakula for SimonsSTM.com. Welcome back for another Yippee For Yana episode. In this video, I'm creating an encouragement card with some new goodies from Simon. So here I have a fantastic stamp set from Simon Says STM called Concentric Circles. Now, this might look a little bit weird to you, but when I saw this stamp, it immediately screamed sunset to me. It's a large stamp. It's a 6x6, a clear stamp, and you can see that it can work for an A2 card. I had a panel of 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches here just now, and you can see that you can use it on a landscape or a portrait card, to do whichever design you like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp this beautiful image in black ink onto white paper. So here I have my Misty stamping tool. This is the larger size Misty. I have a sheet of Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. This is half of a letter sheet. I have some magnets. They're holding my paper in place there. But I also have a grid mat inside my Misty. But, I added some magnets just to be sure because I knew I would be double stamping this. And I'm using my Memento Tuxedo black ink and double stamping the concentric circles onto the background. At first, I was sort of planning to use alcohol markers, and I do have an example that I will show you where I did use alcohol markers, so that's why I used the Memento ink. But later, I ended up using Simon's inks to do some ink blending. So what I'm trying to say here is it does not really matter what ink you use for stamping your image. You just need to make sure that the ink is not going to smear once you ink blend over it. So I took my panel out of my Misty. I used Simon's T-square ruler and I drew a line using a pencil. This is basically going to be my horizon line. So I'm separating this image into two sections. One is going to be the sky, the sun and the sky, and the other section is going to be the sea. I think this stamp set is brilliant because when you look at it right away, it doesn't exactly tell you that, you can use it for images like this, for cards like this. But if you experiment with it a little bit, you can definitely incorporate it into some abstract art cards. So here I have selected several colors of ink for my ink blending. I have Tide Pool, Tropic, and Egan. These are the colors that I will use for my sea. And then I have Sunbeam, Honey, and Mandarin. And these inks, these colors will make the sky. Here I have already ink blended, or actually this one was colored with Copic markers. So I have one background where I used Copic markers for the coloring, and you can see the colors on the screen right now. So we have BG11, BG15, BG23, and BG09 for the sea, as well as Y35, Y38, YR15, and YR09 for the sky. Even though these are circles, you can use inks and turn this stamp set, turn this image into a sunset. Here I have another panel where I did ink blending, but I used slightly different colors of ink. And here's another one where, again, I experimented with all sorts of colors and I added some pinks and purples as well. So you can use whatever colors you want to create your sunset and, just blend away. I'm starting with the darkest ink color, the Egan, to ink blend the beautiful sea for my card. I'm using Simon Says Stamp blending brushes and I'm applying ink generously onto my background. So I'm using actually the same blending brush. I'm not cleaning it in between the different ink colors. I hardly ever do this. Maybe I should, but it works out fine in the end. I don't have a blending brush for every single ink color in my stash. Instead, I have a blending brush for a color family, if you will. So this is my brush for this color family. And you can see once I finish blending, it ends up looking really nice. Oh, I forgot to mention that I added a strip of tape. So this is Best of Our Craft tape by Spellbinders, and I just added it along the pencil line to mask the background because obviously I did not want to get any ink onto my sky section. Now, I did clean my work surface. I cleaned my glass mat. I did not show that on camera, but I made sure to clean it because I did not want to contaminate my other inks, for example, this orange, with the teal ink that I already had on the mat. So next, I'm ink blending the sky. And so for my card, I went with the orange, yellow, and teal color combination. But there are so many different variations, so many different options that you can do for the sunset. I encourage you to experiment and try. If you need ideas, if you need suggestions for different colors, you can go to Pinterest, type up sunset, see sunset, and you will have loads of ideas, loads of different color options that you can try. This one worked really the best for what I had in mind, so this is what I went with. Now that my ink blending is done, I am using a rectangle die to cut this panel out. I want this to be slightly smaller than my A2 card base. I have another card that I will show you at the end of this video. For that card, I just used my paper trimmer. I used a ruler and a pencil, and I basically just measured things. But here I figured it would be a lot easier to just use a die, center it on my background. I am using a T-square ruler here to make sure that the edges of the die are straight so that my horizon line is straight and it is not crooked. Although, you can have a crooked horizon line if you want, because if you are looking at the horizon line at an angle, it can be slightly crooked. So, do what you want. So I taped my die onto the background using Best or craft tape, and now I'm using my Platinum 6 die cutting and embossing machine to send this through and cut it out. I am adding a panel of printer paper on top. I'm doing this because my cutting plates are not new. They have been well loved and well used, and they have some cut marks on them, and I really don't want those cut marks to transfer onto the panel. So by adding a panel, a scrap piece of paper, a printer paper, over my ink blended panel, the scrap paper will take all the beading. It will take all of the cut marks from my cutting plates, but my actual die cut panel will remain nice and neat. Okay, here I have my panel and it looks nice, but I don't quite like the intensity of the color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the same colors of ink that I just used, and I'm going to re-blend or re-intensify the colors, especially around the edges. So I want the edges to be slightly darker, and I'm re-blending them. I am adding a fresh piece of tape to make sure that I don't have any teal ink going over the yellow, and then the same with the yellow going over the teal, because that will create green, and I don't want to have any of that green on my panel. So I'm just re-blending my panel, making sure I clean my glass mat between the different colors. And I'm also using the new Simon Says Stamp microfiber cloth. I'm loving that cloth to keep my desk nice and neat. It's such a fantastic product. Love it. So here I am just applying the mandarin, the orange ink, around the edges of my panel, just to make that sunset a little bit more intense. Next, I'm adding a little bit more of that honey ink again, just to make the colors a little bit more vibrant. And we can now peel the tape and reveal our beautiful background. It's a simple background. You just have your ink blending. You just have your stamping. But because of that stamping, those concentric circles, they add interest to this simple ink blending. So in a way, you could have just ink blended the background first. Maybe you already have some ink blended backgrounds in your stash. And then stamp the image, the concentric circles, over the ink blending. It works either way. You can either stamp and ink blend, or ink blend and then stamp. Now for the sentiment for my card, I have this fabulous stamp set from Kathy Zilski. When I saw it for the first time, I was like, yes, this is so stamp set. This stamp set is so for me. So this is the Bad Day Good Vibes stamp set. Right now, it is at the time of me filming this video. Unfortunately, this is sold out, but I am sure it is coming back in stock because it is so popular. So what I did here is I just stamped the Good Vibes Bad Day Sentiment in VersaFine Onyx Black ink onto that same Nina Solar White cardstock panel. I cut it out using a coordinating die. I also cut another panel out from white cardstock, and I used barely art glue to adhere the two die cuts together to make it a little bit sturdier. And then I also heat embossed a sub-sentiment, so an additional sentiment, and for that I used white embossing powder, and I embossed it on black cardstock, and this one reads, "All good vibes your way," because we all need some good vibes our way, don't we? I think we do. Next, I have one more stamp set that I used for this card, and it's actually one of my longtime favorites from Simon Says Stamp. This is an older stamp set. It has been released many years ago, but it is still a near and dear stamp set to my heart, and it is Your Light stamp set. Now, I'm only going to use the two little seagull images from this set, and I'm going to stamp those above my sentiment up in the sky, just to add a little bit of movement to my design. So we have all of that beautiful concentric circles stamping. We have all of that beautiful ink blending to create the water and the sky. And now we just need to add a little bit of movement to the sky, and I can do that with the help of those beautiful seagull images. Next, I have my cardstock panel. It is in A2 side folding card base, and I'm just adding some thin foam adhesive squares to the back of my ink blended panel. Going to pop that in the center of the card, and also going to foam mount my Good Vibes Bad Day sentiment a little bit to the left. I also have another card where I foam mounted that a little bit to the right. I don't want it to be in the center, because if you place it in the center, it actually covers up the illusion of the sky, and this whole ink blending and this whole stamping sort of loses, it just loses. I don't know. You know what I mean? It just does not look as good. So I found that sliding it a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right and keeping at least a part of the sun in view makes for a better card. I then foam mounted the skinny strip sentiment, and now I'm adding some sequins to my card. These are Aura sequins by Spellbinders. I love using those. I actually use them nearly every time I make a card. So I just added a couple of sequins here and there, and that finished my Good Vibes Bad Day card. Here's the other card that I made with the exact same ink blending, but the sentiment placed on the other side. So this is a look at the two projects I have for you today. I hope you feel inspired. I hope you're going to grab your stamp set, try to do some ink blending, and maybe, create a fun card like this or similar. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.